Stabbed 12 times, paralyzed, always reminded. It doesn't get easier, I got stronger. I'm a walking contradiction with endless possibilities. Emotionally, I'm unstable. Physically, I'm weak. Mentally, I am strong. I am a wounded healer. It doesn't get easier, I got stronger. I'm love. I smell like home. I sound like my mama's prayers. I look like I'm sure. I see beauty in the struggle, grateful. It never got easier, I just got stronger. I'm choosing to be strong. Be a voice for those who have been silenced. Speak on the unspoken like a phoenix still I rise. It won't be easy, but you will be stronger. I'm here. You are here. We are here. Hello, you all. Good evening. My name is Shehariah. I'm your host of the Silent Skills podcast. We are produced by myself and the iRant Network. You can find them on Facebook and also on YouTube. We are streaming live from our Facebook page called Silent Skills and also the iRant page on YouTube. Welcome. Welcome to the show. For today, the topic is the intersection of healing and parenting. So, how healing affects parenting, how those two, play around with each other, how it affects the way you parent, the way that your kids see you, and everything that comes with it. Welcome. So, hey, y'all. Welcome to the show. So, first, I'm going to start by introducing each of you. Then, afterwards, you all can share anything that you want about your story, you know, however detailed you want it, or, like that. So we have Samantha, we have Lanice, and Tamika J joining us this evening. So we're going to start with Samantha. Please tell the group who you are and a little bit about your story, anything that you want to share. Unmute your mic.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Samantha. I'm a domestic violence survivor. I also mentor young girls and women also that have been affected by domestic violence. I'm also a part of the LGBTQ community. A little bit of my story was um, my mother-in-law had, you know, attacked me. I was in that for 6 years. I just recently got out of that a year ago to date. So that's a little bit about me and my story. And I also have a daughter and a husband that were involved in that as well.
Thank you, Samantha, for sharing. Now, Tamika, can you tell the crowd who you are and a little bit about your story?
Sure. My name is Tamika Jones. I was in an abusive relationship for about, I want to say, give or take 15 years. It was verbal, physical, and mentally abusive. Um, I had 3 children by this gentleman. Um, you name it, I've been through it. I've been spit on. I was beat in front of my children. Um, Cell phones broken, identification stolen, threw away. I dealt with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. I was in the psych ward once because I wanted to commit suicide. Um, I'm actually still in the process of healing. Healing takes time. It's not something that goes away overnight. The physical scars go away, but mentally, emotionally, that process time. So that's what I'm here to discuss and help other women who have been through what I've been through.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Tamika. Now, Lanice, make sure you unmute your mic. Can you tell the crowd who you are and a little bit about your story?
It's my turn.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So, my I was abused for 5 years. I was pregnant with my son the last 9 months year. Um, and basically, I was by myself the whole pregnancy. How everybody sees people with their spouses going to doctor's appointments and stuff like that. I didn't have that. It was just me, even though I was in a whole relationship. Um, then I've been diagnosed with PTSD and major depression, major anxiety, and with my son, he at a young age he started to have night terrors, and night terrors are basically like you're having a whole nightmare, but you're still sleeping, so you wake up. You can't wake up. You just have to basically make sure that you're okay, because he would thrash around and try, but just make sure he not hurt himself. So now it has turned into anger issues with him. So now I have to seek help for him. So it's been a crazy experience over the last few years dealing with um, my mental issues from it, and also his mental issues that are starting to show from the abuse that I went through while I was pregnant with him.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Lenise. That goes right into today's topic. Last week we talked about the stages of recovery after trauma. That's broken down into three parts. The first stage is basically finding stability, safety, just trying to ground yourself right after. The second part is basically becoming aware of everything that you endured, trying to transition into a healthy and thriving lifestyle. And that last part is basically integration, like integration back into society, integration back into finding your own identity and trying to resume with your daily activities. Um, so I feel like all of that uh, leads right into today's topic. I feel like parenting adds another layer into healing when you're, recovering from trauma. It makes things way more complex. You're not only responsible for yourself, you're responsible for your child or children. And also, your children can be considered domestic violence victims as well because of everything that they have seen and probably experienced themselves, like direct violence towards them by the perpetrator. And also the aftermaths of seeing what how you now are, how you now feel, how you now talk, how you now are towards them. So all of those things play a part. Domestic violence can also overlap with community violence, so it can like trickle over into other things, whether that's from the perpetrator or the victim. It can overlap with community violence, child abuse, death, substance abuse, divorce, among other things, within the classroom. Like just, it's so many different layers that domestic violence can affect in terms of parenting uh, for both parents, the like I said, the victim or the perpetrator. For the victim or survivor, whether he or she has left the relationship or not, there's a complex like web of emotions that you have to deal with during and after. So it doesn't just end with that act. It affects you. It affects the way you maneuver daily activities, work, social life, and also your kids. Um, okay, so I guess moving into the first question would be, do you? I know. So, can you ladies tell me how many kids you have and how old they are? We can start with Samantha.
I have one daughter and she's 3 years
Okay.
old.
Now, Tamika.
I have three children, two girls and one boy. My son is 11, my middle daughter is 13, and my oldest daughter is 18.
Okay, thank you. Now, Lanice, how old is your kid?
I have a 7-year-old son. I just have one. It's just him and I, and he's 7. He'll be 8 in March.
Okay. All right, thank you. So for the first question I have for you ladies is how do you think the violence, abuse, or fighting has affected your child or children? And also, please let us know if you were in that abusive relationship with your kid, with any of your kids. Like, were you pregnant? Were they already, here, like with us physically? And also, like, how do you think the violence and everything that you went through affected them? So we can start with Tamika.
Um, I was pregnant with my son when the abuse started. Um, my oldest daughter, I saw a change in her personality. I remember when she told me that she didn't want me to leave because she was scared that the guy that abused me was her stepfather. And one weekend she was supposed to go out with her dad, and she cried, and I didn't understand why she was crying. She told me, "Well, I don't want you to leave because I feel like my stepdad will kill you." My middle daughter, I saw a change in her personality, her schoolwork. Um, my son was really emotional all the time. He was shut down. I noticed he started having anger issues. Um, and my oldest daughter, she really saw the most and she understood the most because she's 18. Um, I think it really took a toll on her. I did notice that she also started having anger issues. So it took a toll on all of us.
Okay. And what you say your daughter's 18 now? What year, Tamika? What year were you able to escape your that abusive relationship?
2018. So 2 years ago.
Okay, so it's very recent, very recent. So yeah, she was well aware and able to comprehend everything that was going through during that time. Okay,
Yeah.
so Samantha, can you tell us whether or not you were pregnant or had your child while you were going through your abusive relationship?
Um, it started actually when I was pregnant with my daughter. I was probably 6 months pregnant, or maybe even a little bit before then, is when the verbal abuse started. And then also it switched from that to then start getting physical while I was pregnant. And then when she was born, it progressively just got worse of not verbal anymore, more
Okay.
physical.
Okay, Lanice, now can you tell us, the same questions? Remember to unmute your mic.
Well, for me, I was with him already for um 3 years before I got pregnant. In the whole 3 years, it was abuse. Um, so I was pregnant with him and still going through the abuse. Um, I got pregnant with my son when I was 23. So from 18 to 23, I was getting basically abused the whole time. It went from verbal to mental to physical. And it stayed physical until I left him after my son was born. I left him when my son was 2 months old. So that was May of 2013. I left him my first Mother's Day weekend of 2013. So my first Mother's Day, I was packing my clothes and packing my son's stuff, and we were leaving. So I was with him my whole pregnancy. It was abuse my whole pregnancy. Um, it was hard. It was just me by myself. My family didn't know. My my best friend knew, but it was like I wouldn't really listen because I wanted what we had in the beginning. And what we had in the beginning was a complete lie. So I've never really obtained that or get that back. Um, so I left him in May of 2013 when my son was 2 months old.
Okay, thank you for that, Lenise. I'm glad that you finally were able to leave safely. What? This is like a sidebar. What was that final straw that made you realize like you had to get out of there? What was that last thing that happened that made you finally say, "Now is the time"?
Well, for me, what made it time for me to go is because we got into this big altercation. Um, it was a really big fight. My son would sleep in the room. We lived in a 1 bedroom apartment in Southeast, so my son would sleep in the room. We were fighting in the living room and in the hallway, and he choked me until I blacked out with my son sleeping in the next room. And at that moment, I knew that it was either him or I, and I had to choose myself and my son first. So, yeah, once I came to, and the only reason why I did come to was I heard my son crying in the background. Me and my son are very connected, like very connected. I can be in a mood right now, and he'll come from outside and ask me, "Am I okay?" It's just like we're just that much connected, and I think it's because of the abuse I did that happened while I was pregnant with him, and being though I'm a single mom and it's just him and I. He's a Pisces and he's very, very in tune with his feelings. He's very empathic, so he picks up on emotions and feelings you wouldn't expect for a child his age to pick up on. So it doesn't matter what's going on or where he is, he finds a way to come to me when I'm in need, even when I don't want him to. So he's very very in tune. But what made me wake up when he started to cry. I didn't hear anything else because I literally the oxygen was leaving my brain because he was choking me that hard. So that was my final straw because I had to choose my son first.
Thank you for that. I'm proud. I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you, and I'm glad that you were able to make it out. You, like I said again, safely. You and your child are safely on a new path to recovery. I'm glad that you're still here with us. It's unfortunate that you had to go through what you went through, but I'm pretty sure that it made you much stronger. Like I said, we're going to have a topic coming up where we talk about religion and healing and how that has played a role. So we're going to talk about that. I'm thinking next week. But yeah, I'm glad you're still here. Um, so, wait, Tamika, I'm not sure. Did I go to you yet for that question? Yeah, you did. I think I did. Did you tell us how the abuse affected your children? Yeah, you said you told us about your middle child and your older child. They started to act different. Okay, so the next question: do you think your child or children look at you differently because of the abuse that they may have witnessed or heard about? Do you think your child looks at you differently? We can start with Samantha.
I don't I don't think my daughter does. I mean, cuz she's only 3. Um as far as that, but I can tell that her behavior has kind of changed, and I think that has to do with what I was going through while I was pregnant, and not only just like with the verbal abuse, but with the physical abuse as well. I think she's kind of, now that she's gotten a little bit older, she's kind of picked up on that because I'm still in the healing process.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, and she still is young,
Yeah.
so it may take a while for her to really comprehend, what was going on with you.
Mhm.
Tamika, do you think your children look at you differently because of what you had to go through in your abusive relationship? Tamika, remember to unmute your mic. Your mic is still muted, Tamika. Okay. So so now we can hear you. Tamika, go ahead. You can start now.
Uh, my sorry about that. My oldest daughter, yes, she was angry why I stayed with her.
I still can't hear you. Your mic is back muted, Tamika. Uh, okay. So I guess we can go to Lanice for now, and we'll go come back to Tamika when she comes on. So Lanice, the question was, do you think your child looks at you differently because of the abuse that you went through?
No, I don't think he looks at me differently because of the abuse I went through because he was so young. Like he was a baby. He was like a brand new. He was a brand new baby. Like I laugh at this now.
Yeah.
He doesn't look at me different from the abuse I went through. It's more I have kind of sheltered him from that. Even with me being so vocal and out there with the story, my son is not a part of that. Like um, I've done speaking engagements, and I have a whole monologue geared straight to my whole abuse situation as I left. Like he has never been to none of that. Like I really shelter him from it for the simple fact that I know it was him at such a young age. So I want him to be at the age that he can understand because his biological father is not a part of our lives. He doesn't really have a connection with him. They're not talking on the phone. They don't see each other. Um, Before 2018, my son hasn't seen him since he was 3 years old. And the only reason why he saw him when he in 2018 is because his grandmother passed. But like they have no connection. So there's a lot from my past that he doesn't know. And I haven't really figured out how I'm going to bring it out and how I'm going to go about telling him because eventually it's going to have to be said because the questions that are going to come about his biological father. Because at 3 years old, he told me that his dad didn't love him and that he wasn't his friend. And he didn't understand why he didn't want to spend time with him because he sees other children with their dads and going to things and at school and at church and he didn't have that at the time. So it was a lot for him to take in and understand. But even at 3, he understood that his his biological father was not the best, is not the best. So it's just I don't know. He's 7 now. Maybe when he's 10, I might bring up the conversation so he can really have a understanding and a grasp on the whole situation. But I don't think he looks at me different because he really doesn't know nor understand.
Okay. Thank you for that, Lanice. that's going to go right into my next question. But first, Tamika, I want you to have a chance to answer that question. Do you think your children look at you differently because of the abuse that you had to endure?
My oldest daughter, yes. She was kind of angry with me. She didn't understand why I didn't leave before I did. She didn't understand why I stayed. Like my youngest two children, they didn't really express to me if they were upset or angry or anything. So it was just my oldest daughter.
Okay. But what made you? Okay, John, you said she didn't really realize why you didn't, leave sooner. And I feel like a lot of kids wouldn't because they haven't, went through something that you were currently going through or have gone through before. So they probably wouldn't have understood. So that's kind of leading right into my next question. Like, talked to your have you talked to your children about the abuse that you endured? If not, tell us why not, or if you ever plan to. I know Lanice already told us that, he was way too young at the time, only 2 months old. So that's very understandable. And she also plans to. But Samantha and Tamika, do you ladies, have you talked to your children about it yet? I know Samantha, your girl is pretty young as well. Do you ever plan to talk to her about it, Samantha? Remember to unmute your mic.
I do plan to when she gets older, to really explain to her. I feel like right now she's only 3 years old, so it's like she's not ready for that conversation quite yet. But I think when she gets a little bit older, I feel like that's a conversation. Um, when she asks like where's grandma and stuff like that of why we're not around, that's a conversation we'll have.
Thank you, Samantha. And
Mhm.
Tamika, I know you said that they may have changed by watching everything that you went through, and you may not have to talk to your oldest daughter because she's pretty, could pretty comprehend a lot about it. But do you plan to talk, like really sit down and have a conversation with all of your kids about what you went through, or what you learned from it, or the warning signs that they should look out for?
I didn't at first. I recently did because I was in a custody battle with their dad. So it came out during the custody battle.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained everything that happened. We even talked about going to family therapy together and going to therapy on our own. Um, I guess it's hard to talk about it. Um, I didn't want my kids to resent me or have any kind of hatred or unforgiveness towards me, or not even just towards me, towards their dad. Um, it's definitely hard to talk about it, but as the days go past, it gets better.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it really is. It really is very hard to talk about. And sometimes you don't know how to word it. You don't know how to just come right out and say it. Um, thank you for that, Tamika. So, going into my next question, I feel like some of you have answered it already, but like, were there any epiphanies like that you had while raising your children that let you know that my child was really affected? Like anything in addition to everything that you already said, like what was that aha moment that made you either, just what was that aha moment? Any epiphanies in your parenting in terms of like your recovery through healing? Uh, Samantha.
I would say for me, it's more that I'm noticing that my daughter's behavior is like she is starting to act up a lot more, and that's why it's making me feel like if everything that it has gone on has really affected her. Like she'll scream, which I'm not used to, but she is 3, but it's more of like this rage kind of screaming she gets. She'll cry, and I'm just noticing in that tendencies that I'm beginning to really feel like it's really affected her. Mentally when she was a baby. So I'm noticing it. And the epiphany moment was when she really was screaming, where she was really crying and wanting almost of herself wanting to come and kind of smack me. It was kind of like a moment where I was just like, wow, it's really affecting my daughter.
Thank you for that,
Hmm.
Samantha. Tamika, do you have that moment?
Um, hmm, I think the moment when I felt like I didn't want to be here anymore because of his actions and what he did to me was that moment that um really woke me up. Like, you can't kill yourself because you can't control somebody else's actions. Also realizing that my daughter is getting older and she's about to start dating, and I don't want her to go through the same things that I went through. Um, I think that was my moment.
Okay. Tamika, can you adjust your camera a little bit so the people can see your whole face? Because right now we can only see like the bottom. Yeah, that's much better. Thank you. Uh, so Lanice, do you think you have that moment? I know you say he was pretty young, so you may not, but just a epiphany in your parenting, like when you realized that.
Just I have noticed, even though that my son was, I was going through abuse, and even though I left while he was still at a young age, it has affected him a lot. Um, Not only the abuse that I went through, but we have to understand that having children with these abusers, our kids come out with 50% of their DNA. They come out automatically with 50% of their DNA. So it's things that they automatically inherit from the abusers because we chose to have children with them. And I have noticed the attitude and the anger, and my son now talks back. He can be very rude, he can be very disrespectful, he can just be right out nasty. And it's all because of a part of it is because of the DNA, and then another part of it is because of the emotions that he felt while in embryo. Like it has been proven that your baby feels everything that you feel, not only physically, but mentally. They feel that. So even though he was young and I was pregnant with him majority of the time, but he felt everything that I went through. Like, I have been tossed and I had been put out with no shoes at 5 months pregnant. Um, we had a whole physical altercation literally while I was 5 months pregnant. So it has been things that I have been noticing over the last 6 months been affecting him. He had locks. You hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
He had locks for 5 years, and he just went and cut them off. Like, just cut them off. He threw his TV out the window. Like, these are things that are a cry out for help. Like, even though children can be young when the mothers or the fathers experience this abuse, but it carries on within them, because even though they're young, they don't know how to express it. So they do things that doesn't make sense. They act out. They do things that they normally wouldn't do. My son is very caring. He's very loving. He will literally give you the shirt off his back. He will talk to anybody. He's just that type of person. But as of late, it's just he hasn't been himself. So though I have to take different steps with him. Like, I'm one of those parents, I really don't like to put my hands on my son. I don't like to, because of the violence that's in his DNA. The violence is already in his DNA. So I don't want to beat him or put my hands on him to try to discipline him and then the violence comes out because I was trying to discipline him. So I have to find different ways to discipline, and us as survivors, because I don't like to be called a victim, because I'm no longer a victim. I went through that. God brought me through that. So I'm no longer a victim. I am a survivor. So I'm like, um, as survivors and mothers, we have to take different steps in when it comes to parenting. We can't automatically parent the way that our parents or our grandparents parented, because of what we have gone through and what our children have gone through or have experienced because of the choices we made. So we have to make different choices, take different avenues, take things away, talk to them, express that. We have to tell our children it's okay to express their emotions. It's okay to express their feelings, especially me as raising a black boy. He's a black boy at the end of the day, and I have to let him know it is okay to show your emotions, because so many black men were not told that as little boys. So they think that holding that anger in, or holding those emotions in, is what's best, and they hold them emotions in, and they explode. And and 9 times out of 10, it is an explosion into negativity, violence, going to jail, killing people. All these things are because of DNA and what people have experienced as children.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you said, Lanisha. You brought up a few great points. The first being when your baby is still in a womb, when your baby is still an embryo and growing inside your belly, they can feel the things that you feel. They are literally connected to you. They are you. You and your baby are one. Like you're the same blood, the same emotions, the same neurons, just everything that's flowing through you to your brain, to your heart, the way you feel is them. Like it's literally y'all are one at that point. It's just they have extra cells, but y'all are one. I do agree that everything that you're feeling, everything that you have endured, the way that you were spoken to, like the things that he was receiving verbally, also the physical commotion that can affect your child. And like I kept that in mind, I guess, throughout my pregnancy. Like I was also dealing with a lot of mental things because of everything that I went through, PTSD, depression, and anxiety. I still battle those things, but they aren't as bad as they was before. But when I became pregnant, um, I really had to step outside of myself, and just know, like a woman that told me, I went on a retreat last March in 2019. She told me your baby should have a happy womb. Like she told me to speak life into my baby, regardless of how I'm feeling. Speak life, like talk to my baby inside of my stomach, like rub on my belly, play positive music. Like that really stuck with me throughout my pregnancy and even afterwards. She said your baby deserves a happy womb, a happy place. So I really manifested that, and I did, my best to try to make it as peaceful and non-chaotic as possible, because those, like, babies, they're human at that point. They have ears, they have a heartbeat, they have brain. Like, so just because they're in your belly doesn't mean that they aren't feeling those vibrations, that energy, and everything else. So that's your first great point. And the second point, um, I think I'm losing my train of thought, but you said that, like even now in the physical, years later, that you could tell that those things affect them. And I believe, yes, they do, because they do share that, genetic chemistry. And like you said, it's a generational cycle, because a lot of abusers started out being abused as a child, teen, or adult. They started out being the victim, and then they survived, and then a lot of them turn into abusers. And a lot of times it isn't because that's what they intended to do. It's just it imprinted on their DNA. It imprinted on the things that they feel, uh the ways that they think, the ways that they know how to react. Like everything that they was watching as a child or as a teen, or whenever they endured that abuse, they was focusing. They were watching how they were being treated. They were watching how if they reacted this way, they would get this reaction from that person. If they reacted another way, they would get a separate reaction. Or even if they started trying to, bullying a kid in school because of them being victimized, because domestic violence is all about power and control. So a lot of kids do act out because they feel like they are powerless. They feel like they don't have that control anymore. A lot of it's from what they watch, what they feel, and how they're compensating to try to make themselves feel whole, to try to make themselves feel, equipped. Like, they don't want to feel like they're being attacked. And, I'm not speaking for every kid, but a lot of kids, it turns into them overcompensating in some way because of what they witnessed, what they had to endure themselves, and how they even want to, unconsciously become that person so they won't feel like a victim again, or becoming overly nice or empathetic because they know how it feels to be yelled at and being, angry at, and all of these things. So yeah, those are a lot of great points because a lot of abusers aren't always abusers. They didn't already start. They weren't born being abusive. Like I said, so those are some very great points that you made, and we will have another show dedicated to perpetrators of domestic violence. So if you know anybody, send them my way because I do want to hear the perpetrators, the abusers, the toxic persons perspective. Because they have a story too. It's stuff that they went through too that they were victimized from, and now it has changed them into the person that a lot of us know, a lot of us had, been with. Like, things always start from somewhere. Things always start from somewhere. Okay. So my next
But
question.
sometimes,
Oh, go ahead.
but sometimes, even us as survivors, we can turn into those abusers because we go back to what we know. So sometimes, you have a double sided. You have a victim, and you also have an abuser in one person.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Could you give us an example, Lenise?
Um, for me, I can say myself because I have both sides. Like I have been abused from a young age all the way up into my 20s, and then I became an abuser. And it wasn't physical abuse; it was more of a mental and a verbal abuse. And I started to see signs of me just like verbally abusing people that were close to me, or the person that I was in a relationship at the time. I would just say things because I wanted to protect myself. It came down to me protecting myself. So I'm going to hurt you before you get the chance to hurt me. But I had to take a step back and was like, this is not the best way to go about it. So I had to do some more soul searching because I had to look at myself and be like, okay, I was a victim. I am a survivor, but I'm also an abuser too. So I had to go through a couple of stages of healing, and I'm still going through those stages of healing because my words can be quite hurtful, and it can be quite damaging to a person who doesn't have a high with self-confidence. And I would say things that I would think wouldn't hurt them, but in reality it's really hurtful. And those words, and I know from my own experience that words hurt worse than the physical, like being hit on or stuff like that. That stuff heals over time. That stuff heals quickly. But verbal abuse, it lasts for years. It can last for lifetimes.
I definitely agree, Lanice. I definitely agree. I feel like the mental and emotional abuse can have it does a number on your mental, on your ego, your personality, just everything, because you could just hear the same statements, the same feelings, like replaying over and over. And a lot of times, physical wounds, do heal. The bruises can go away, but those mental things that you had to go through, um, they remain. I want to take 1 second to go to the comments right now. They should be coming up on the screen. So someone said, Lanice, are you saying that an abuser, to become an abuser, is hereditary? Like, do you feel like the genetic DNA of an abuser can be passed down to your children and they have them same traits and can potentially turn out to be that same way?
I do. And I say that because of my abuser. His father was abusive to his mother. And
Mm.
before that, he lived a whole double life. Like, he had a wife and children while he was having a relationship with my abuser's mother. Like, so yes, he saw the things that he saw, the abuse with his mom, the different women that his dad used to float around, how he used to treat women, how he acted with women in his life. Like, those things can, yes, it can be hereditary, but it also can be cut. It is something that can be stopped. You have to, and us as parents, not only the moms, but us as parents, we can go in and stop it before the cycle continues. We have to learn how to break the cycle. The cycle only continues if us as parents allow it to continue, because we know our children. Nobody know our children better than we do. As moms, as dads, we know our children better than anybody else on this planet. So, like, we can go in, and when we see these things, see the red flags, and we see the signs, and we see the way that they're going, we can go in and remove it and give them new ways of living. For me, it has always been my Christianity. For me, my son is in church all the time. Before this pandemic, we are in church on Sundays. We go to church on Mondays for dance practice. We listen to gospels. We pray in the morning. We pray at night. We pray over our food. These are the things we have to go into and change. We have to go in and change the DNA. The DNA can be changed. The mental DNA can be changed, because you can go in and give new ideas. You can give new ways of life. You can show there is a better way of living other than the negative and the abuse. You can have joy. You can have peace. You can love. But you have to be able to go in and see the red flags. Like, there were many red flags in my relationship that I paid no attention to. None. They were there. All the signs were there. And the love that I had for him were blinders. So now I can see the certain things in my son that I seen in him that I refuse to have happen. Because I refuse to visit my son at anybody's grave site, and I refuse to visit my son at anybody's jailhouse. I refuse. So I have to break the cycle. Me being his mother, me being the closest thing to him, I have to break the cycle.
Okay, thank you for that. That comment was from Ja, Logic, and Friends. And also, we have another comment from him. It says, when you describe what the child witnessed, that's considered learned behavior. So they already witnessed it, and it's learned behavior, meaning it's a part of them now. So how do you respond to that?
It's just like anything else. You have to teach the child new behavior. It, you have to teach the child new behavior. You have to teach the child new choices. You have to teach the child, just like you teach a child their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s. When they go from elementary math to middle school math, it's just about teaching them new things, new ways of living, new choices. When you want to lie to me, we have to figure out why you're lying and then change it into a positive. Anything that's a negative can always be changed into a positive. So even though whatever the child witnessed, as far as whoever's being abused, there's a way to change what they witnessed from learned behavior to new behavior.
Thank you for that. And you told me, I remember you saying that, church religion was a go to way that you want to, that you have been incorporated into your and his lifestyle to try to change that behavior. That's, uh, okay. So she'll be back in a second. So yeah, that's what Lanice was saying. We have another comment by Miss Ravioli. She says knowledge of the red flags is extremely important. And I think this applies to, in your children, even in that abusive relationship. So I want to start with Tamika. Uh, okay, I'm losing my train of thought. Uh, do you think you have seen red flags in any of your children, Tamika?
My son, yes, he is always angry. Um, so that's definitely a red flag. I do believe that sometimes it can be hereditary, basically generational curses. And I agree with Lanice. You do have to um, retrain them and help them to understand that these are the ways that you deal with your anger, or you can speak on your emotion. Like she said, especially having a young black son, it's definitely important to speak to them and have that one-on-one conversation with, and let them know it's okay to have emotions. And the Bible says be angry but sin not. So I definitely try to work with him and let him know that it's okay for you to have emotions. And we have to work on ways to deal with your anger. So I do believe it can be hereditary, and red flags are definitely important. I agree with Miss Ravioli. Um, I did notice the red flags, but I was young. I couldn't nobody tell me anything. I just thought I was in love. So the red flags were definitely there when I first started talking to this gentleman, but I ignored the red flags.
Okay. Thank you, Tamika. So, y'all, we have another comment by Mike Rumpf. Said, would it be considered as seeing the best in people to see the red flags and to not move accordingly when these behaviors are presented? So, what can you attribute that to? Like Lenny said as well, she saw a lot of the red flags, but she was blinded by love. Like, what do you consider seeing the red flags, but kind of ignoring them, brushing them to the side, and dismissing them? We can start with Samantha.
Um, with me, with that question was I saw a lot of the red flags. I did notice them very early on. I did, however, tell my husband what was going on with his mother because it started as a verbal abuse and a way she would talk to me. And a lot of the time I would ignore it. But when it became physical, it just went another route. You can ignore it all you want, but there's certain traits that when a person says they hate you, that's fine. But when they put their hands on you, it's a little bit deeper. And that's where it was this hatred that was just couldn't be kept being ignored. And I would always communicate that. So it's like I get this man's question, but it's also in the fact that red flags, you can see them and you can acknowledge them, which I did to my husband. That's who I was with for the 6 years of the trauma that I did go through, which was verbal, but then, it also became the physical part. And that also was acknowledged too.
Okay. Thank you for that, Samantha. I do also feel like
Mm-hmm.
when you enter into that physical realm, things do feel a little different. I feel like a lot of, and research says as well, a lot of domestic abusive relationships, they don't begin with the physical violence. A lot of them begin with the emotional, the emotional, mental, spiritual, financial, like manipulation, isolation, the talking down, or a lot of those relationships begin with those things, and a lot of them end with physical. Um, I know in my heart that a lot of them don't begin off being physical because you have these honeymoon phases, and then you have people that send out representatives of themselves to appear as a different person, as a better person than the ones that they present to you towards, in the middle, like after some time, not in the beginning, after some time, towards the end, they send out their real selves begin to appear. They can no longer keep up the facade of who they were trying to be to you to get whatever they want or whatever the case may be. Lanice, can you answer this question as well? I'm gonna repeat it. Would it be considered as seeing the best in people, basically ignoring the red flags?
Um, I would say yes because even though I saw the red flags in him, I did want to believe that that wasn't really him. Like I just wanted to believe that he was having a bad day, or it was just a lot going on, or something else. I wanted to see the best in him, and that's the type of person that I am because I'm very caring, I'm very loving, I'm very giving. Like that, those aspects in me are some of the most positive things about me, but also some of the biggest weaknesses that I have because a lot of people will take those things for weaknesses, and
Right,
abusers are one of the biggest ones. They literally seek out those people who are caring, who are loving, who will
right,
literally give you the shirt off their back. And with me, I was young. I was young. My child's father is 12 years older than me. I was 18. He was already 30.
mm,
So I was prey to him. I was PREY. I to him.
exactly,
I was prey.
exactly,
He wasn't praying for me. He was preying on me
exactly.
because of the fact I was young. Because of the fact that I didn't know. Because of the fact I was just getting back to the city life. There was a lot of things about the city that I was not still aware of because of where my mother moved us to at a young age. So he preyed on me. So I did want to see the best part of him. I did wanted to see the best in him. So instead of me taking heed to the red flags, I wanted to believe that he had better in him than that.
Okay, I could definitely relate. I could definitely relate. When I was in my abusive relationship, I felt like I didn't attribute the things that he was doing to abuse. Like I had not learned about the power and control wheel until after I went through what I went through and I actually started to go to support groups and counseling. They introduced that, you know, the figure to me, the actual wheel and the cycle. Like I had never seen that in my life until after I went through what I went through and these therapists showed me that. So I just thought he had an anger problem. I just thought he had issues. I thought he was unstable. I just thought, like this guy has issues. He's unstable. He doesn't know how to think right. Like I didn't. My first thought wasn't he is abusive because it wasn't any. He wasn't physical with me. You know, physical violence. It would be more so things like, checking my phone and constantly asking where I'm at, always wanted to be around me, no matter where I'm going, like always wanted to be right there. But it's like in retrospect, I see that it was because you're trying to keep tabs on me. I didn't see it as, you know, I didn't see that as abuse. I just saw it as jealousy and insecurity. But those things go hand in hand with an abuser and a toxic person. But it's like when you learn the terms and actual diagrams of these things, you can kind of categorize them better. That's why I feel like this education should start earlier in life. Like I don't know when, but maybe middle or high school. Just alerting people to what a manipulative, toxic, abusive
Need
person
to
can be
need
like.
to start they in elementary school and learning about this. Elementary
Yeah,
school. because by the time they get to middle school, you already got teenage abusers.
Exactly. Like,
You have the
and
domestic
teen,
violence that is constantly on the rise. Teen domestic violence constantly on the rise. So we need to be educating these babies in elementary school. Fourth, fifth, and sixth graders need to be knowing about what's going on, so they
I
can
agree.
already be aware of the signs to look out for. And then it might even trick something in the head. Okay, what's going on at home? This is not normal. This is not okay. My mama should not be crying every night in the bathroom. I should not
Right.
see her with a black eye in the morning. This is not
Right.
normal.
Right.
These babies need to understand this. We can't wait until they get in these teen years, because by then it can possibly be too late. We got teenagers dying because
Exactly.
their boyfriends and girlfriends is putting their hands on them. Their
Exactly.
boyfriend and their girlfriend is going to go get their mamas and their daddy guns and they shoot them. Y'all,
Hmm.
they going out on dates and now we just gonna sit at the park and chill, and then you get choked out because you
Exactly.
didn't do what that man told you to do. That's what boy told you to do. We have to educate the babies. So by the time they get in middle and high school, they are well equipped with the knowledge and the understanding that I am loved, that I am worth something. I am a queen and I'm a king out here in these streets. You can't tell me nothing about I'm not worth it. You can't tell
Right.
me nothing about I'm weak.
Right.
You educate them babies. That's why I'm getting my baby a mental health. That's why he getting therapy now at 7. 7.
Right.
We gotta introduce them to it early.
Hmm.
Mental health is not something that we have to keep and be afraid of. We should not be shameful that we have mental health issues. And us as a community, we should not be ashamed. And even in other communities, Caucasian people hold this stuff in. The Asians definitely hold it in because they not supposed to say nothing about what's going on at home.
Yeah.
And we was raised, what goes on in the house stays in the house.
Right. That's true. For a lot of black people,
Y'all
like
stop
they
laughing
like,
at me.
no, I'm not laughing at you. It's just, funny because a lot of the stuff is true. Like black people specifically, we are taught that, what happens in the house stays in the house. Like you don't talk to outside people about your business. And that uncovers a whole nother layer of protecting abusers because like we have a lot of more topics to cover on a lot of more shows, but just like briefly, that we have a lot of rapists in black families, and we have a lot of black families covering it up because they want to protect that person who is their son, their uncle, their brother. Like they want to protect these people because they still feel whether these abusers or rapers are their children or whatever. They still can feel that connection to their child. A lot of people, regardless of what their children do, want to protect their child. They don't want people to see them in a bad light. So that uncovers a whole nother layer of people not speaking out about it. Families keep it on the hush, or families not talking to their children, siblings, and everybody about what they're currently going through because they don't want to be seen in a bad light, or they want to keep it on the hush. They don't want their children looking at their parent in a certain light, and like so many other things. So yeah, like I said, I agree with you're saying. I do feel like it should start as early as possible. I just, I don't think the government would allow certain things, but I'm definitely, once my corporation papers come through, I definitely want to try to get into the schools because I feel like as early as a child can witness, experience, or hear abuse, they need to start learning about it, even if they can't put, complex words to it at that young age. They should start learning about it as early as possible because whether they can dictate it, they have felt it. They have been affected by it, sometimes permanently, sometimes temporarily. Like you said, Ladise, a lot of times they can be reformed. We had another comment by Mike Rumpf that says there's a thin line between love and obsession. There's a thin line between love and obsession, and I do agree. I feel like the last person that I was with, I feel like he was obsessed with me. In retrospect, like, well, going through court, he had, told the detective asked him, why did he do what he did to me? Like, why did he stab me so many times to try to end my life? His response was, I just loved her so much. His reason was for trying to kill me was, I just loved her so much. And that, that just doesn't register in my head because I feel like love doesn't hurt. Love is not pain. So I felt like he was obsessed. I learned that he was obsessed with me. I thought it was love while I was in it, but towards the end of it, I realized that it wasn't. Like, because you're obsessed if you're always wanting to be around me, always wanting to have some type of contact, some type of communication. You want to have eyes on me. You want to keep track of where I'm going, where I was, where I'm at currently. Like, you just want to be close. You don't want me to like experience life in a way. Like, you don't want me to meet outside people because you feel like in my head, I feel like he felt like I would see the so much better in other people. And so that's why he didn't want me going to a lot of the places that I was going to, meeting a lot of the people that I was meeting anyway. So I do agree that there's a thin line between love and obsession. And I do feel like there was love in there somewhere, but I know that love isn't the reason that he did what he did. I feel like he was obsessed. He wanted to constantly have me in his possession. And when I decided to leave, that's when he realized he no longer had any control over me. He no longer possessed me. I could no longer be an object of his obsession. Like the most dangerous time for a survivor, sometimes victim to leave is, well, yeah, the most dangerous time is when they leave. Because that's when the abuser, the toxic person realizes that you no longer have control over me. There's nothing you can no longer say that will keep me where you want me. Um, I want to go to um, Tamika. If you want to touch on, like if you saw the red flags, I know you said your oldest daughter felt like it had taken you a while to leave. Do you feel like you saw the red flags, and if you feel comfortable, you can say why you decided to stay longer than your daughter felt like you should have stayed? And also, do you feel like you was waiting for something to change, or did you see the best in that person, Tamika?
For me, I think me wanting to be I'm a family oriented person, so I always wanted my children to have both parents in the household. I didn't grow up both of my parents, so that was one thing I always said. Well, I'm going to have both of my kids. My kids are going to have both parents in the household. Um, I think um, this is really difficult. I just feel like me dealing with daddy issues, I was just looking for love in all the wrong places and trying to escape what I was going through in my mom's home. There was abuse in my mom's home. My mom had mental issues, so I was young and I didn't want to deal with that anymore. So me going to live with him and his mom was a way for me to escape the things I had going on in my mom's house and just wanting to be loved, but being loved the wrong way. That's how it ended up. Um, I guess it's just hard. I really did stay because I wanted both of the parents in the household. I wanted to break generational curses. And it's not easy as everybody thinks it is to just up and leave. If you have kids, you have to think about the kids. If you go to a shelter, I even tried to check at the shelters. You have to be in the shelter at a certain time. And then if you work, how can you be at a shelter at a certain time if you work? It's just a lot. You just can't up and leave. You have to pack your stuff. And if you have children, what somebody calls CPS on you. And what if it gets back to the school? So it's easier said than done. You just can't up and leave. It's really hard. Like you have to plan things out. Where the kid's gonna go? Am I gonna go to this person's house? Am I gonna go to this person's house? Who can I trust? Who can I not trust? Or is someone going to judge me? Um, it's a lot when you go through domestic violence.
I do agree. I definitely agree. I feel like someone shouldn't just leave. I feel like you should always have a plan in action. You should always have, an idea of how you plan to like transition into another life, whether that's securing a location, address, home, shelter for you to, to go away
Yeah.
to, cutting off all communication with that person so they don't know anything about your whereabouts. Because if they find you, they will, have show all of them traits, them abusive traits of trying to get you back or trying to end your life because they realize that you're not coming back. We have another comment right now that I want to go into before the next topic. Dwayne Downton says, "Why did you have a child with him when the relationship turned abusive?" So I'm guessing this. We probably all can answer this, but we're going to start with Lanice. Why did you have a child with him when the relationship turned abusive? After the relationship turned abusive, Lanice, your mic on?
Was that question?
Yes, yes, for you. We're going to start with you.
Well, for me, I had a child because I was also in the beginning stages of working on my mental health. So I started medication made me just say everything. Best man at that time. So even though I knew he was abusive, but I also knew he had the ability to be a good dad because I seen him with his other kids and he was great with them and he interacted and did stuff with them and went to the schools and I seen all of that. But when it came down to me, I didn't me and my son didn't get that. But it was more of the medication that I was on that made me acceptable to the idea of having a child with him.
Okay. Thank you for that, Lanice. So now I guess we could go with Tamika. Tamika, you can also, let the audience know whether or not you were pregnant or had your kids after the abuse started. Was it
No,
during?
I was pregnant and the abuse started. So it was, but after I got pregnant. Um,
Mm.
I had, to be transparent, I had an abortion already. I promised God that I wouldn't do that again. So when I got pregnant with my second child, that wasn't an option to abort my child. So kids are blessings. So I decided to keep my child.
Okay, thank you for that, kids. Kids are blessings, right? Little bundles of joy. Um, so we're gonna go to Samantha. Can you, you know, tell the audience, were you going through abuse when you had your child when you were pregnant, or did it start afterwards?
I was going through abuse while I was pregnant, but it wasn't, like I said before, my abuse wasn't from my husband. It was from his mother. So my abuser was my mother-in-law. It wasn't my husband. So it started when I was pregnant. I said even like a little bit before I got pregnant as verbal, and then it became abusive while I was pregnant and more so after. I did, try to leave a couple of times. Um, Police didn't want to really help me with that. And the last straw was like when I had my daughter in my arms, my husband's mother attacked me and choking me. And that was the night that I told my husband I was done. If police weren't going to do anything, I was leaving. the police saw what had happened to my neck because I had my daughter. I was screaming while my husband came to get her, to get his mother off of me because I was about to drop my daughter and I was trying to hold on for dear life, holding on to my daughter. And then after that, he got her. Even though the situation is very unique, we were also living in our home. She was able to get me out of the home, so I was homeless until we got at a like a motel for the time being. So that's my unique situation with that. It wasn't love, wasn't my partner, it was his mother. So it was more of, I think she had an obsession because of my daughter, because I had learned she had lost her, a daughter that she had had before her baby had passed away. So I think it was traumatizing to her to learn that her son was having another, having a girl. And she had that obsession with me. And it was more of, she has a lot of she also has a mental illness. So a lot of that contributed to it.
Okay. Thank you for that. So yeah, that's a different type of dynamic versus a usual domestic abusive relationship. You said the mother-in-law
Mm-hmm.
was very abusive to you for her own internal reasons. You feel like she kind of regretted losing her child. So yeah, that's way more complex. So you decided to leave your partner because his mom was being too abusive towards you.
Mm-hmm. I'm still with him.
Okay, okay. We have a statement right now from Miss Ravioli. She says, also, in my experience, humans keep secrets and protect the identities of sexual abusers because humans are most concerned about how the world will view them for having a relationship with the abuser. So I agree with that. This is kind of, a few minutes ago, but I do agree with that. She says, I believe everybody was abused before their pregnancies. Manipulation is a facet of abuse. Has anyone felt or does anyone now believe that they were manipulated to any degree prior to conception? So prior to conceiving your child, becoming pregnant, do you feel like you were manipulated in any way before that point? We could start with Tamika.
No, I don't. No, I don't feel like I was manipulated. No.
Okay. Samantha, do you feel that way?
No, I don't feel that way. Mm-mm.
Okay. So I have one more question. Uh, Tell me about the things that you feel proud about as a parent. Like, what is that one thing or multiple things that you feel proud about as a parent? Tamika?
Um, I feel proud about using my voice to help other women. Um, I feel proud of myself for I'm about to graduate college. I started my own business. Going to therapy. A lot of black people don't want to go to therapy, or well, I thought that black therapy was for crazy people or people that just were out of their mind, not knowing that it's okay to go to therapy. So taking the steps to finally start my healing. I'm proud of myself for that. Just using my voice to speak out, to help others. I'm really proud. So
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that, Tamika. Samantha, what is that thing that you're proud about as a parent?
I would say for me getting help and just coping with everything that's happened. Um, I'm proud of my daughter. I'm proud to be her mother. And if anything, I want her when she gets older to know of how strong I was and how strong I still am. And, um, you know, of how much I'm also proud of her and will also be there to guide her through anything that she goes through.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Tamika, I want you to, can you tell us a little bit more about your business? Did you say you started a business?
yeah, well, this is I sell scrubs. I've been in the medical field for about 11 years, so just going around to different businesses, trying to get businesses to buy my scrubs. So
Okay, how can the people find your website or how can they get in contact with you, Tamika?
I'm actually working on that, getting my website up and getting my business cards out.
Okay, so y'all stay tuned. The next time she is on, she may have the website and contact information for you all to, buy some scrubs from her. You want to, support all the survivors on this panel. So right now, I want to kind of end us out. So today we talked about healing and parenting, how those two relate, how healing has affected your parenting, how it has affected your kids, and how you plan on breaking that cycle of abuse. Like, do whether or not we want to continue on with that cycle and the steps that we can take to break the cycles of generational abuse. We know that abuse can start, as Lenny said, in the womb, like they can hear and take on those traits of what they were feeling while they were in the womb. And some of them traits can come out physically as they start to get older. And so, yeah, we just want to talk about how we can break that cycle, whether from them, whether from ourselves, because victims and survivors can also turn into abusers. We can also become that toxic person because of what we have been through. You don't want to feel like this person is going to try you. The next person will try you. The next person will try to take advantage of you or anything else. So we kind of put on this role of, you know, defense and, a shield, a protector to feel like I'm going to hurt this person. I'm going to do this before they have a chance to do it to me because you don't want to go through that again. So that's it for tonight. I want to thank you ladies for joining me. Again, you can find Irant Network, Irant Podcast on YouTube and Facebook. You can also follow the Silence Kills, KILLS, Silence Kills page on Facebook to stay tuned with the things that I'm doing and on YouTube as well. So, yeah, big shout out to the Irant Network for having us, and we will see you guys next week.
This is Cowgirl Part 2. Pain teaches us best because it forces us to take a look at ourselves. Traumatized, living in pure ignorance all our lives, until which we have no choice but to go inwards and deeply reflect. The universe will force this realization on us through external events. For some, this happens sooner than others. When I was attacked, it was only me and my psyche. I had to fight hard to get back to where I'm at. Being reborn, immediately being selected for the Olympics because of my powers, but I don't even know how to execute living in this lifestyle. People judge me for my strengths and my weaknesses. I got Bambi legs, fumbling like a newborn, but still having to perform. Imagine baby Hercules growing into herself, and you judging her for not being able to walk in a straight line. That could leave that little young Hercules feeling like, do I continue to harness my powers or do I stifle them for the sake of others? Do you understand what that is like? If so, how dare you insult me and not recognize the strength in talking to you right now? Thinking you know me, I can tell your estimations are off. So many things held me back. My drive is insane. My fight got me here. I'm welterweighting with the heavy hitters. If that doesn't scream victory, I don't know what is. If I was defeated, I would have perished at the crime scene along with the shattering of my reality. If I was defeated, I would still be on bed rest, needing morphine, oxycodone, and IVs 24/7. If I was defeated, I wouldn't have put in close to 17,000 hours of physical therapy and still going strong. I opened my eyes every day and was motivated and determined to beat all odds. People don't understand how much it takes to sustain and maintain. I could be dead, so I fought. Where does that put me? I was battling for my life. I battled with the most. Someone with non-surgical precision penetrated my body with non-surgical steel 12 times, ragged. Being strong is my only option. If you know pain, why don't you know compassion? Many people think they have arrived at their destinations already. Wrong. The more I celebrate myself, the more I realize how silent I've always been when I shouldn't have been. People are putting me in learn to cope with your stuff because you're disturbing me boxes. Don't cry because then you're dwelling. Don't be too descriptive about how you feel because that's exaggerated. Don't be too silent because that's passive aggressive. Don't speak out because nobody want to hear that. The irony of it all is they have the same problems too, and it manifests almost the same way as mine does, except their advice is a little different. Yes, I have mood swings that frighten me. Yes, I have the anger that I'm sure you are underestimating. Yes, I cry when I get overwhelmed. Yes, I love and I love hard. Then love ain't no love at all. Yes, I feel everything deeply, but I'd rather feel than play numb. I gotta let my fire burn and say F who don't like it. I'm a happy girl, and the first thing I had to realize was that happiness is not linear. I will struggle sometimes, and that's okay. There will be parts of her that aren't solved, parts of her that require gentleness, parts of her that need to heal, parts of her that need to be reminded of who she is. Be patient with her. There will be parts of him that are fragile, parts of him that need to be caressed with care, parts of him that haven't even begun to heal. Be patient with him. I'm giving myself my all, my tears, putting my pain in pictures for you. This is what you really call a golden shower. I'm shining through my pain. My best friend calls me the sun. He tells me, yes, I have my cloudy days, even rainy ones, but you will always feel my warmth. I am the sun, but even lights are burnt by shining. I have the effects that I do on people because my power and strength don't fit into the realm of their tunnel vision. Some people don't deserve my expression of pain. If you're only looking at my expression and not what I represent, you don't know me. I'm weak because I trust you enough to be vulnerable with you. To judge my tears or attitude or moodiness only without taking into consideration me or the battlefield I'm on is an insult. Me expressing my feelings to you is a privilege. I'm not ashamed in how unpretty my healing and journey is. We still call a rose beautiful with the consciousness of its thorns. I can't stifle my crown for anyone who refuses to accept that a rose is at its healthiest surrounded by thorns to protect her halo. You have to know yourself enough to recognize what to reject. Not everyone is for you. You have to guard your God level energy. I am the woman Hercules, your human star girl. Thank you.